Still getting used to some of the foibles of YouTube streaming. Okay, there we go. Welcome, folks, to a game that is not freaking. Oh, this should be moving. What's going on there? There we go. A game that is not freaking bug.
Worked out all the bugs.
That's for sure. Um, it has honestly been so long since we've done a new SEGA Saturn game that I've almost forgotten the cadence we had to some of these, or to how we were doing this series. But because it's been so long, I'm just going to kind of take it from the top a little bit. As a reminder, this is a mini series for an increasingly dubious application of the term mini. Um, in which Gumbachi and I examine a bunch of different first-party Sega Saturn titles. In part because the Saturn's a big blind spot to us, and in part because we find it interesting to um, kind of get more of a sense for the identity of the console. Um, we to this point, since we've been going through it mostly chronologically, we've mostly got the sense for the first few games, or the early creative push behind the Sega Saturn. We also took a look at Nights into Dreams being the Sega Saturn game. But for the most part, we've been, after that, we started from the beginning and have been going through various titles in release order. We have,
Well, technically, after that, we went to Christmas Nights, but
well, yes, aka the best one we've played so far, but, you know. Um, with Bug, we finally, gosh, I was so damn done with Bug last time. I forgot to actually contextualize it within
the
our
be-
series playthrough. But
the best one I think so far for me has been Virtua Fighter, but
oh,
I'll accept Christmas Nights as well.
I'd have to think about that actually. They're pretty close. I
Yeah,
might agree with you and put Virtua Fighter over Christmas Nights, but that's a conversation, I think.
yeah.
Um, that being said, after Nights and Christmas Nights, we went back and started playing through launch titles. We did Virtua Fighter. I'm going to mix up the order on some of these. Virtua Fighter, Clockwork Knights, Panzer Dragoon, Daytona USA, um, Astal, which wasn't quite a launch title, but launch window, and then Bug, which again not a launch title, but was a very prominent part of Sega of America's promotion of the Sega Saturn, being one of the titles developed by a third-party studio to be a first-party release. Um, a headliner release that was in all the promotional material. Real Time Associates didn't quite make the Saturn's launch, but certainly not for lack of effort, and they certainly beat damn near everyone else to the punch of actually getting their game out for the console. I think they were like a month or two late. Um,
That begs the question though: if they're a third party company making a first party release, uh, and a second party company is owned by the first party company, what makes a second party release?
uh, the way I see it, so Rareware is the easiest,
Yeah.
the easiest go-to example. So in the 90s, Rare was doing their thing, making games. They made a bunch of games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo was so gosh darn impressed by them that Nintendo actually bought major shares within Rare, functionally turning Rare into a second party developer. Um,
Uh-huh.
Rare developed a bunch of games for Nintendo that were um, at the time considered first party. They had some titles that they themselves owned, but like Conquer was always going to be Rare's title, just published by Nintendo. Um, but Donkey Kong. well, Donkey Kong was always first party, Nintendo's property that Rare was getting to play with. But Rare also designed Killer
Uh,
Instinct and Banjo Kazooie to be Nintendo titles.
One
Um,
correction is that Conquer wasn't actually published by Nintendo. It
right.
was uh, it was distributed. It when you boot it up, it says like distributed exclusively by Nintendo, but I think it's still technically just a third-party game licensed by Nintendo.
It up to a certain point, Nintendo was going to be publisher and nothing else.
Yeah.
Then after a certain point, you can probably guess what certain points, Nintendo stepped as far away as they could and very reluctantly distributed it.
Yes.
Um, but so, but so uh Nintendo owned shares of Rare for 8 years per their original contract. Then when their contract expired, Nintendo didn't bother re-upping it, so uh rights for Rare went up for grabs. Microsoft eventually got them. Blah 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 blah. Because Rare had created some Donkey Kong and Star Fox characters, Nintendo exchanged the rights to those to the first party series Rare had made for Nintendo, Killer Instinct, Banjo Kazooie, in order to preserve full rights to all original characters that Rare had made for existing first party series. So the Donkey Kong characters and the Star Fox characters were traded for Banjo Kazooie and Killer Instinct. Um, then, of course, since then, Rare has developed their own Banjo Kazooie and Killer Instinct games, parenthetical, um, uh, that have just been their own work. This is all to say, within that equation, Donkey Kong Country is a first party game, Banjo Kazooie is a second party game that was supposed to be first party but became second party. Uh, Conker's uh, Conker would have been a second party game that became third party, that really became third party, and since then, um, uh, new original Rare games that have released since then have either been third party, showing up on Nintendo's handhelds, or first party, showing up on Microsoft's home consoles. That's how I'd break it down.
So is it like um, if it was first party in retrospect and now it's no longer first party, then it's second party?
I think so. I'm a little fuzzy on some of the specific mechanics of that, but that would be how I would define it.
I suppose that's fair. Second party is like a uh, what's the word about a informal term anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we're all just spitballing ideas.
Strictly speaking, my mind immediately goes to first person, second person, and third person, in which case, second person is you, the viewer at home. So I guess a second party game would be a game that you developed.
Uh, WarioWare DIY, where you at?
There you go. But we're not here to talk about Banjo Kazooie. We talked about that years ago. We are instead here to talk about Sega Saturn games. And before
Yes.
we get into the game proper, I usually like to have little icebreaker questions. Since it's been a while, I'll just give you an easy one. Gooms, what are your thoughts on the Golden Axe series?
Um, Unimpressed mostly. Like I hate to say it because I know it's like a darling for so many people, but like I don't really get it. It's a fairly standard beat 'em up.
Mhm,
I think even comparing it to Sega's other big name beat 'em up series, Streets of Rage is night and day. Like
mhm,
um, Streets of Rage has so much more level variety and
mhm.
character variety and combos and um, all this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, it feels a lot better with the suplexes. You're um, there's items to pick up, um, whereas with Golden Axe you occasionally get a mount, but that's about it for the most part, and magic occasionally.
Mhm.
Um, Health items, I think. But
Yes.
uh, Golden Axe just feels very basic. It feels like you're using either the charging attack or the jumping attack, and you can kind of clear through most enemies that way. Um, I played through the first one and kind of charged through it. Um, the second one, I don't know if I ever finished, uh, but I think that is that one like a fighting game too, or is it another beat 'em up? I don't even remember.
Uh, so there are technically two Golden Axe 2s, but I assume you're talking the Genesis one, which is
Yeah.
it's a beat 'em up. Um,
Okay.
it really doesn't matter
Yeah.
actually. They're all beat 'em ups except for this one. Well, mostly.
And the RPG on Game Gear, but
I
yes.
was just gonna say, I think like one of them is a bit Zelda like as well, but
Yeah.
they experimented a little bit with some of the side stuff. But yeah, no,
But yeah,
that's
the it's just I suppose it's an improvement uh from like Altered Beast in that you can move on a three-dimensional plane, and like there's a little bit more enemy variety, but honestly, even comparing it to something like Double Dragon feels like it has a lot more gameplay depth than Golden Axe has.
mhm. Yeah, that's fair. I honestly probably agree with that. So uh I played Golden Axe years and years ago and was kind of like this is it. Um I have played technically four Golden Axe games. I played 1 and 2 on Genesis. I played Golden Axed, which was that
Yeah,
prototype that was uploaded to Steam. Um, I think the way it was promoted was a bit mean, but honestly, cool that it exists. I kind of wish more companies just made vertical slices for or prototypes of rejected pitches available. From a historical perspective, that's super interesting. Um,
yeah, and I'll probably play that. Um, I'll at some point though. I have like mixed feelings, especially since the creator is all like, "Why are you doing this? You're showing off our incomplete work and kind of making fools out of all of us."
A bit,
So,
yeah. Hey, Jared. Um, so I played that. I played 1 and 2, and then I played the much reviled Golden Axe Beast Rider for PlayStation 3. I think it was on Xbox 360 as well, but I played it on PS3. In my opinion, critically underrated game, criminally underrated game. It's not phenomenal, but it's good. Damn it. Um,
the strongest positive opinion I have about the series is that it has a pretty damn awesome stage in Sonic All Stars Racing Transformed.
I will absolutely give you that. I actually did in addition to that, I did a bit of research that kind of makes me a little bit uh, appreciate it a little bit more. You'll remember at some point in this Sega Saturn series, I was doing research on each of these games. Um, Golden Axe, you have to put it in the context of when it was conceived of and developed. 89 is a bit into the early heyday of beat 'em ups, but it was a game made directly in response to Double Dragon. The project director was like, "Well, we should do our own Double Dragon." But Kunio-kun was underway, and it wouldn't have been River City Ransom yet, but I think like Renegade or I forget all of the different weird localized names of it, like Crash the Boys or whatever. Um, so that was a work in progress, and he was like, "Oh, we have to make sure we don't stray too close to that." So he grabbed, of all things, Dragon Quest as influence, and was like, "Okay, well, a way we can make our beat 'em up different is if we incorporate weapons and magic into it." Uh, and from there, using Conan the Barbarian as a template seemed a fairly organic way of implementing that. Hence, we have the barbarian sword and sandal theming of Golden Axe.
Uh-huh.
Um, Also, mechanically, it draws from Street Fighter One of all things, with the idea of tying attacks to inputs combining direction and button presses.
Uh-huh.
Uh, which again, early enough that you have to remember that that sort of thing would still be novel, but that's weird to think about. Like, oh yeah, no, that Street Fighter One inspired something.
Well, it was. We joke about it now with good reason, but I think at the time it was still like a important, relatively important la- land landmark title.
Mhm.
Like, there were fighting games before that, even before like Street Fighter Two, um, that were relevant, um, like ER Kung Fu and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
That probably had more influence on the genre, but like Street Fighter One uh, had some important things to bring to the table.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
but uh, I would say, um, the first thing is that '89 would still be contemporary with like Final Fight, and like Final Fight blows this game out of the water.
That I would agree with. Yes.
But
Um,
um, and two, I guess I can appreciate it introducing medieval things to beat 'em ups to a certain extent, but I feel um, like the Capcom Dungeons and Dragons game does that better, and there's probably other examples I can't think of off the top of my head.
Hell,
Um,
Gauntlet was already kind of doing that thing. That's not a beat 'em up, but
yeah,
it's it.
yeah,
Uh,
uh,
like yeah, it doesn't like make the games for me, or doesn't make the original games for me, but it's at least kind of a okay, okay. I can appreciate the thought that went into this.
yeah. It
Uh,
kind of feels like something that would have happened eventually, if I'm being honest. But I guess I can give it some credit for that.
sure. Just remembered one of the co-creators of Kunio-kun and River City Ransom passed away recently. R.I.P.
Yeah,
Aw, I forgot
yeah, I heard
about
about
that.
that. Yeah, he's he is being a uh, an honor student in heaven, I guess.
Aw, that's sweet. Also, Street Fighter 1 did also inspire games like Red Earth outside of the obvious Street Fighter 2 onward. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Um,
it's weird because like Street Fighter One, um, it's not. It was just an also ran, but I think it was kind of relatively noteworthy as an also ran. Um, it wouldn't like change the genre like Street Fighter Two. It wasn't like this is the next step in it, but it was like still relevant.
kind of an
That makes
oh,
sense.
okay, okay, okay sort of
Yeah,
title.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair. But all right. So Golden Axe the first, originally an arcade release, super popular. Oh my god, it's the bomb diggity. I suspect as well part of it being having such an emphasis on co-op at a time when that was still somewhat novel was okay. So
yeah.
So Golden Axe was popular enough to inspire, first off, a home console port, which I don't think it. I can't remember if it was a launch title for the Genesis, but it was certainly launch window. Very early release. Again, one of those that really defined the start of that console's generation and really brought people in. Um, but in turn, Golden Axe had a huge Golden Axe age of just a bunch of releases in the late 80s and early 90s. So you had the headlining it, you kind of had an arcade trilogy and a console trilogy, in addition to like uh, one or two Game Gear spin offs. I think there was a Master System title as well. A bunch of comic book tie-ins and all sorts of odds and ends. But from our perspective, we've got the you have the Genesis trilogy of Golden Axe 1, Golden Axe 2, and Golden Axe 3. Uh, we're going to sweep those to the side. We don't actually give a shit about those because we're more interested in the arcade trilogy, which is Golden Axe 1, exact same game, more or less, compared to the Genesis one. So you've played the Genesis one, you have the picture for the first arcade Golden Axe.
I
The
think I might have
sequel,
played a little bit of Golden X3 also, but I don't know if I finished that one either. But continue.
I think I have Golden Axe 3 in like my one of my Genesis collections. But anyway, so you have Golden Axe 1. A couple years later, you have Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder, which is a distant sequel, like takes place 10, 20 years after the first game. Death Adder's back. You have a whole new cast of heroes. There's a guy who's kind of like Axe Battler, but he's called something different. You have a centaur lady, and you have you might have like an Amazonian lady. I don't remember. And then you have a giant who is notable in that he's actually two characters, where the giant is the guy doing all the fighting stuff, and casting magic is a very old Gilius Thunderhead,
Uh-huh.
who is the only recurring character besides Death Adder to show up. Uh,
Which makes sense because he was the most interesting. But
well, yes. Yeah, no argument here, but like I hear that Revenge of Death Adder is actually pretty great. A buddy of ours on the Discord server who kind of shares our opinion on most of the Golden Axe series ran through Revenge of Death Adder and was like, "No, actually this is pretty darn good." Uh so
neat.
um so that's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be pretty good. Again, Death Adder's back. Oh my god, we have to stop him. They defeat him. He comes back in the final cutscene. He comes back again, but then Gilius Thunderhead, in a great final struggle, leaps off the giant and deals the killing blow, sacrificing himself so that Death Adder is dead for realsies for the final time, and
Until
so
he comes
peace
back.
reigned on the land across the land. Then we have the final entry of the arcade trilogy, which is the subject of today's playthrough to finally arrive to the point. Golden Axe: The Duel. It is 80 years now after the events of the first game. Um, all of the original heroes long dead. Um, we have a completely new generation of heroes. Suddenly, Death Adder returns. Uh,
I called it.
yeah, yeah, man. But there's more going on. It's not just Death Adder. There's more going on. Specifically, I believe the plot is that the Golden Axe is missing,
Oh, so
and
you missed a word there. You said suddenly return, and you should have said somehow he
somehow
returned.
I caught that as I was saying it. Yeah. Uh, but it kind of an excuse plot. But basically, what we have here is to round out our original trilogy is a fighting game, bona fide, true ass, not a beat 'em up, 1v1 proper fighting game.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Does
you
this
had
have? Do you know if this has any plot? Does it have character endings?
It does have plot. I believe it has character endings.
All right.
Um, it like I said, all the original heroes are dead, so none of them are playable. But you have descendants that are playable. You have like Tyrus's descendant. You have Gilius's descendant, who's also named Gilius, but he has a different last name. Um, you don't have Axe Battler's descendant because he didn't have any kids, but instead you have the orphan that he trained. Oh, okay, is basic.
Gilius, Gilius Lightning Cabeza.
I like where your head's at. Gilius Rockhead is his name. Um, which to me just makes him sound like a Flintstones character, but what do I know? Um, but you have a bunch of other characters as well. There's like a girl who is raised by wolves. You have an evil elf named Keel. And
Okay. Subtle.
like, every time this past week as I was looking through characters and stuff, I just kept reading his name Keel and thinking that one Steve Harvey clip.
Is he an evil elf or is he a dark elf? Because
He is
there's a distinction.
explicitly an evil elf,
Okay.
kicked out of the elf community for being so gosh darn evil.
Okay.
Um, you have the manual. We'll go through character backstories once we get into the game a bit. But there are a bunch of other different playable characters. And then, curiously, Death Adder himself is playable.
Oh. Okay.
Great, now I can see Mr. Slate dressed as Gilius Thunderhead. There you go, that's the ticket. But yeah, we've got, I believe, 9 or 10 different playable characters. We have a bunch of different story routes we can go through. It's very simple. Just your imagine your typical tournament of fighters type of setup. Literally all there is to it. But there is a plot. Like I said, I believe there are character endings, and so I figured this will probably end up being a fairly casual exploration of the game. We'll try to clear it at least once with someone, but I figure this can just end up being a neat little exhibition stream of some of the different characters and some of the different odds and ends.
Yeah. Maybe 2 streams if there's enough to go
Sure.
around, but um there's 10 characters it looks like, unless there's secret characters that the manual doesn't want to tell me about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense actually. From what I was looking at beforehand, but yeah. So oh, the only other thing worth note is that there is surprisingly little creative DNA connecting Golden Axe the Duel to any of the other Golden Axe games.
Mhm.
Looking at some of the staff members, I was surprised to see that this was a lot of people's first game with Sega, and in some cases, their only game with Sega, or at all. Um, the people who worked on this, there were some people who had done other stuff beforehand, and a decent amount of people who did this went on to do other things. Like I believe the director for some of the Project Diva games got started here. One of
Strikes
the
me as a very B team sort of game in the way of like Donkey Kong 64.
Speaking of Donkey Kong, one of the heads of Barrel Blast got a start here.
Oh, neat.
But yeah, I think this was definitely one of Sega's arcade teams, just kind of again, I think a bunch of up and comers kind of being told, okay, you can do stuff. Here's you like Golden Axe, right? Golden Axe does well for us. Why don't you do a new Golden Axe? And I think the team was like, well, beat 'em ups aren't doing so well. It's 1994. The heyday of beat 'em ups is kind of past. Why don't we do a fighting game that's in vogue? So I think that's what that's what happened here. This is another one of those where there's not a ton of specific information on it, on the dev history, but
Gotcha. That would make sense to me though.
Mhm. But all right, if you give me just a minute to switch stuff over, we'll do that. I've mentioned it before, but since our switching over to YouTube for streaming, I kind of had to redo a bunch of my setup stuff. So if there are any issues with either sound levels or visuals, just let me know. I can adjust stuff. But without further ado, let us go.
Oh, it does seem like there's another character related. There's Milan Flare, who's the descendant of Tyrus Flare, the girl from Golden Axe.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Many moons have passed since the Cursed War, but as memories of those dark times begin to fade, another war is beginning. Out of the mists of time, a magical axe appears in the land. It is said the artifact can grant its owner anything his heart desires. Young and old, good and evil, they all draw towards the power of it. We don't get to know the rest. This guy, her, him, her, him. Him!
I think you scrolled the text fast enough, God. I know plot isn't the... Oh, that's it.
Golden Axe, the Duel.
Like, points for that little animation of that guy swinging that sword. That was really fluid.
Yep. Well, it's not... It's kind of let stuff happen as it will. Yep. This is going to take a bit to... It's okay. Nope.
Disc-based media, everyone.
Great read on the scroll, Connor. Thank you. All right, before we get into
better than I would have.
Before we get into it, let's just adjust stuff here. I'm gonna make the game a little quieter. If it's too quiet, I can bring it back up. It's just a little loud on my end. All right. Worst case scenario, we can always cheese it by making us really strong and the CPU kind of a wimp. But we'll start on normal for everything. We can set it so that it's we can futz with the time, life up, or potions. They did in fact incorporate the key mechanics of the original Golden Axe. We also have standard sound test stuff. Again, for now, we'll just leave stuff as is.
So does life up like extend your health bar, and potions are like single use heals?
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I guess we will see.
Okay.
But all right, let's get into game start. We're probably going to have to choose a character fairly quickly. Yeah, we do. Okay, we got Cane Blade, Million Flare, Gilius, Zoma, Jam, Death Adder, Heal, Doc, Green, and Panchos.
Stress. He's the main character, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Read his backstory. Orphaned by war and found by a famous warrior, Cane Blade learned the art of swordsmanship from an early age. When his patron died attempting to save another child from fire, Cane could not accept the way his master died. Cane's whole life had been devoted to perfecting his combat skills. Death by other than combat was unimaginable. Seen as a Samaritan by some, a meddler by others, Cane has taken to wandering in various provinces to help those in need. He seeks the axe in the hopes unite the provinces of the continent and end the diabolical plans of his enemy, Soma and Duel. They will try to stop him, but Game is determined to win. Many years have passed since the last war with Death Adder, but as memories of those dark times begin to fade, another war is beginning. Out of the midst of time, a magical axe is discovered. The legend of the axe is well known throughout the land, for it is told that this axe is the very one which Gilea's Thunderhead used to slay Death Adder. Oh, that's canon, I guess. Over time, the powers of the axe have grown. It is said that the artifact can grant its owner anything his or her heart desires. Young and old, good and evil, many are drawn towards the power of the weapon. Thus begins the war of the Golden Axe. The fighters remain for thousands. 10 fighters remain for thousands. Select one of them and begin battling your way to claim the axe. You'll need to beat the other 9 characters before you can take the prize. Each one is a talented fighter, determined to go all the way and use the axe for his or her own purposes. Better be ready, the first fighter is waiting.
Thank you, Boomgardner. I will adjust the game audio. It is a bit loud on my end, just making sure that isn't me. Yep. And actually, I'm going to further adjust it here.
I do have a different mic, but you might want to lower the game volume to compensate for that.
We'll try that volume. Ah, man. Zoma turned me into a lizard. A frog, rather. Okay, it's gonna take me a bit to figure out these mechanics. Kinda neat sprite scaling, though, not gonna lie.
It's very, Fatal Fury.
Yes! I think I still get attacks as a frog, that's neat. Alright, so you can see sometimes the gnome thief shows up. If you beat him up, you get a potion.
Better? That's good to hear. Okay, so you have six buttons, 3 kicks, and 3 slashes.
I think I know how to have them mapped.
Weak, medium, and heavy.
Duel 1. Fight.
Yeah, you jump by pressing up or in a direction, like that.
How do I use these potions I've acquired?
Well, you hold back to block, but let's see about potions.
Power up, okay! Maybe if I hit all the ow. Well, it's alright. It'll still be okay next round.
Duel 2.
Maybe the potions are like meter.
I think that's the case, yeah.
And you use them like you use your special moves with them. In which case you can do a Hadouken with him. And you can also do a Shoryuken with him.
Ah, mother.
And you can do like a backwards Hadouken motion.
Alright. Just
And the special attack is like, um, it's a shuriken. It's a shuriken motion connected to the uh, Hadouken motion. So it's like basically right down,
Duel
down right, right up, up right, and then a button. That's how you use the special move.
Oh, in fact, I do have a Hadouken.
Yes.
Fire head!
I think. Yeah, fire edge. That's you get that from the shuriken.
Oh,
He's
okay.
so he's very much the Ryu of this game. I
Which
guess makes
tracks
sense.
for the battler guy.
Uh,
Nope. Come on. Throw him! Yeah!
and then if you have to do the Hadouken motion backwards and then do a kick in order to do rushing kick.
Oop, hold up. Okay, well. Ah, he winded me. That's embarrassing. At least like to beat the first freaking guy. Then again, I've never been good with Shoto clones, so eh.
Yeah.
Duel 1. Fight.
Ah, man.
Yeah, see if you can do rushing
Duel
kick. I
2.
think that
Fight.
Oh, is that the jump kick?
I guess. You have to do the Hadouken backwards and then do a kick.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think that might be it. Guess that's just
Ah, man.
a way to get in.
Okay.
And the only other special move he has, so you know the um the dragon punch movement, right? Right down, diagonal down, right.
Yeah.
You do that, and then you do right, and then diagonal up. So like you have to chain it into that, and then press
Duel
slash,
1.
and that's your special move.
Fight.
Rock the ball! Maybe I just turtle up. Dude's laugh sounds like me the time I found a dollar in the bushes on a walk. Ah, man.
Oh. Okay. So how it works is you have to gather 5 potions, and then you press A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z together, and that activates your super strength. That makes all your attacks stronger, and then you can also use the super moves.
Okay.
And I guess you just can't use super attacks unless you're in this state.
That makes sense.
Duel 1. Fight.
Dude. Ah, man. Distracted me with his infinite.
Kind of feels like it might be too hard to get
Duel
meter.
2.
If that's
Fight.
if like you have to be distracted and kill the gnome instead of whatever you're doing.
Okay.
What?
Wait, nope. Wait, I want to be... there we go. Yeah, okay. Well, he still killed me. But I figured it out at least.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get past Zoma tonight. Vote on your phones. Sorry. Fully acknowledge that these types of fighting games are not my forte. I can try
At
with
least
other
you're good-
dudes if you want, but I'm just
At
trying
least you're
to...
consistently executing the super move. That's better than a lot of people.
I am honestly impressed that I'm consistently pulling that off. I guess 20 years of trying the input has finally paid dividends.
Duel 1. Fight.
Drop the ball!
To be fair, this guy does have an
Embarrassing.
Akuma fireball, which is kind of just rude.
Duel 2. Fight.
Ah. Alright, so Zoma's this guy that I'm butting up against. What's his deal?
Okay, I guess I'll talk about him. Zoma.
Duel 1. Fight.
Only the brave or foolish enter the southern plateau, a wasteland where little grows but where evil is said to thrive. This is also the home of Zoma. It is said he uses the life energies of captured travelers to sustain himself in this bleak environment. Zoma served as an advisor to the King of Lustan, a kingdom which bordered the plateau in the ancient days. Zoma's lust for power finally forced the king to banish his former minister to the plateau. Through the centuries, Zoma has been content to live off the energies of his prisoners. However, the announcement of the Golden Axe has stirred his lust for power once again. Zoma has stated that he will rule the continent without mercy when he wins. Okay.
Hey, I got him.
No,
I just need to know his
No
backstory.
no pressure, but the fate of the continent rests in your hands.
Well, I killed the world like 10 times over already, so I guess it works out. I don't have time to play with you. I must find the Golden Axe. Trademark.
It was a very smarmy look he was doing.
Kinda, yeah.
He looked. He had a look like he was like a 10-year-old anime protagonist.
Speaking
Boy.
of 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah. Weird.
Duel 1.
Jam is her name.
Fight.
Okay. The northeastern part of the continent is a collection of small provinces that until recently battled one another. A baby girl born in this region was left behind when the villagers fled as enemy troops approached her hamlet. The wilderness spirit Dagas found this baby girl and named her Jam. The spirit found shelter for Jam and asked the beasts of the lands to welcome her as one of their own. Though still young and naive, Jam has learned to survive in the wilderness, even to defend herself when necessary. She has learned a number of fighting styles from the animals, and hopes to keep what's left of the provinces for them. I don't know if this is accurate, but she strikes me as like a Blanca kind of.
Oh, she was waiting for me. A bit, yes. What? Well, I'd rather lose to the mischievous scamp than the death warlock. Alright, here's the real test. Okay, good. I don't have to redo the whole thing from the top. Looks like we're going off of Darkstalker's rules here. Really, a lot of this game visually looks to me like Darkstalkers. Obviously, the way the characters are animated is different, but some of the UI stuff, some of the menus and stuff. Dude gets like no priority with any of his moves.
Duel 2. Fight.
A unique quality of Jam that I happen to see is that she has no home stage. Instead, where you fight her is based on who you're playing as. She will always take on the stage of the home stage of the other character. I guess reflecting her nature as a being of the wilderness.
I didn't know she was the Luigi Mario Party 3 of this game.
Yes, indeed. Yeah! Aw, shucks.
Final duel.
Final duel. Hey,
Yep.
sweet. Where'd the hell did that come from?
Weirdly, I think she's not very good at close range. Like, she has really good projectiles, but not. You would think she would be. That would be her forte, but not really.
Yeah. Princess Mononoke Direct. I don't have time to deal with you. No, he says the same thing. Alright, who are we up against next?
Man, why don't they have unique victory quotes? Those are so easy to implement.
Maybe he has multiple, but yeah. Alright, we're up against Milan Flare, I think?
Yes, Milan Flare.
I see in the last 80 years they've developed technology beyond bikini mail.
By which this isn't much more than a bikini, to be honest.
Well, no.
Milan Flare is a princess of the kingdom of Winwood and descendant of Tyrus Flare, who helped defeat Death Adder long ago. She is also the protector of the kingdom and relies on wind magic to battle her adversaries. Though a bit young and brash, she takes her role of protector seriously and has won the confidence of her people. The kingdom of Winwood is the most scientifically advanced of all the provinces. It is a prized jewel for many would-be leaders who could use the power of the winds. Should Milan win, the golden axe would be used to ensure that Winwood does not fall to foreign invaders.
I cannot lose. My people are depending on me. So she's Dutch.
Is she?
I don't know.
Well, why do you say that?
Because the windmills.
Oh. That's scientifically advanced, I guess.
Well, I mean, just look at all the windmills in a sec.
Yeah.
Duel 1. Fight.
Yeah. Very sciencey windmills. Look at how much Leonardo da Vinci they're invoking.